Welcome to Bonehead. It's our Halloween episode.
You kind of sound like you're making love to a vacuum cleaner.
Well, who doesn't make love to a vacuum cleaner? Hey, James, I can't help but notice your crotch is a dead zone.
Just ask your mother, she'll tell you.
I'm just going to say it. I'm breaking the fourth wall. You took my joke.
Yeah, I did. I did. You should have never said it.
You Robin Williams my joke.
I was about to say Merton Bill.
Merton Bill. Milton Berle.
Milton Berle your joke. Yes, I did.
I prefer Cap Calloway.
So, do you like the Dead Zone?
I do like the Dead Zone.
I do too. I love that Anthony Michael Hall
Anthony
show.
Michael Hall's a dreamboat.
Oh my God, he's
God, I hate
amazing.
you all
Christopher
so much.
Walken sucked. Did you ever see that POS directed by David Cronenberg called The Dead Zone?
No, I refuse to watch it.
What's on your head?
A little fedora.
That's not a fedora.
It's a sombrero. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a sombrero.
You know nothing about haberdashery
It's a
art,
sombrero.
sir.
Ay.
Well, what's on Spot's head?
It's like a gremlin.
I don't know. My head itches. Anyway, here's for the big reveal. Welcome to Bonehead. I lost
Holy.
some face hair.
That rabid ferret with deep-seated mother issues left your face. What happened?
Hold on, we'll use the same excuse they used on Star Trek for Spock's ears. He got caught in a rice picker. It's the worst line ever.
That's a great line, but it doesn't make any sense. Is that which episode is that on?
That is.
Watch this, he'll be able to tell you.
Is it City on the Edge of Forever? I believe it's City on the Edge of Forever.
Oh yeah, I guess it is.
Because it's
I was so Harlan might have wrote that line.
Yeah.
I
Harlan
can't feel
Ellison.
my chin because of the strap of that hat.
I can't feel my face when I'm with you. That's a top 40 hit, kid. See, I'm relevant.
But I love it.
Oh my God. Joe knows it. I'm sorry, it's no longer relevant.
All right.
Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So, to address the elephant in the room, James, you've been getting fat.
I have been. I've been eating a lot more than I used to. It's stress eating, really.
Really?
Yeah, see, I eat because I'm fat, and I'm fat because I eat. It's a vicious cycle.
Holy crap! You shaved yours. You're growing one.
I don't mean to. There's a backstory on mine, but I'll tell you later.
What is it? Did you break your razor?
Joe figured out the backstory on why I haven't shaved. I came back from vacation, and my wife said, I put your razor up. I said, where? It's up.
Oh, this up thing you've talked about like a dozen times.
Yeah.
I'll put it up. Well, where's up?
Had such the happiest beginning in any movie history.
Oh, God. Up. The love story for ages. Anyway, the reason my face...
That's a horrible thing to say about a man and a little boy.
Up. Really?
Yeah. I don't know what you're
You
talking
keep your NAMBLA nonsense away from
I would
Pixar.
never, ever make that joke. By the way, who's up for watching Lolita after this?
Classy.
Which version?
all of
Rick
them.
Mason
First
or Jeremy
one,
Irons?
I only believe in the one.
Richard...
I said Rick Mason.
You said Rick Mason.
I only believe in the one true Lolita, the Long Island Lolita, the Amy Fisher story. Look it
Which
up.
version?
Anyway,
The one where I play all the parts.
we are taping this. We are 3 weeks early. This is our Halloween episode. We're taping this on Friday the 13th, which is amazing. Haley has done a great job. The shit just fell off something over here on fire. It's okay. We're good. So Haley's done a great job of decorating around here. Doesn't it look awesome? It looks like it's Halloween.
Yes.
Yes.
It does.
All right.
It looks way more like a Halloween than Easter.
I had a son. Well, I didn't, but a lady I knocked up had a son, and supposedly he's mine. So I'm taking off paternity leave, and I hadn't actually seen my face in 10 years. I have not been clean shaven in 10
What a
years.
good decade that would be.
Yes.
Yeah. That not seeing my face?
Yeah.
The other two of my best friends sitting here haven't seen my face in that long either. Actually, Chad thought it was in 2000.
Yeah.
Chad thought it had been 17 years.
No, but you did it when you worked in Hagen, right?
Yeah, I was in, yeah. So
No Shave November.
No Shave November. So I'm taking several weeks off, and I'm not...
Well, don't you get the best friend point, you kiss ass.
And I'm going to shave my face, and I'm not going to... Nobody gives a shit. Well, I'm explaining it.
Hey, somebody was on time today. Boom!
Your penis?
Yes.
Oh, well, good.
I thought it came
30
early.
minutes before I got here. What?
I got it. Did you hear what he said?
No.
He said he thought it came early.
That's what I keep hearing from your wife.
Oh. Anyway,
Drink
so
a
I'm
bit.
not
I
cutting.
assume she's talking to me. There's a lot of other guys.
I shaved
there.
once. I'm not shaving again. I'm not cutting my hair. There we go.
All right.
We're done.
So what is the topic of today's episode? It's actually a fan request episode.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to James's girlfriend, Miranda.
Oh.
What?
That was a very deep and romantic sigh.
No, I want to call
Are
out.
you wistful for Miranda?
No. I want to call out.
Miranda.
I want to call out some other things, but I'm not going to do that to you because I respect you so much. And given what I've already said about him, that shows that I'm all.
Are you talking about certain stalkers?
I'm talking about all your stalkers.
All right. So yes, we
They just want to wear his skin.
and drink my drinks. So anyway, moving right along.
He said it.
He did not. You said it. You
I
said
told
a
it.
joke.
Nope.
We can use it when they do camping in the tent.
Oh.
So we're off the rails.
You know why I do this show?
Respect.
Fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory.
It's the same reason I go to work.
How
Anyway.
far are we? We don't even know. We haven't even.
Thank you to all of our fans, even the crazy ones.
4.5 minutes, and we have not
And
even announced
the crazy
topic.
ones that steal my drinks. So this was a fan request to one of our really loyal fans, Miranda, out
Yes.
there. All jokes aside, so this is for you. We're going to do Halloween on
Friday 13th. But
4-hour.
Halloween
episode.
episode.
That's so confusing. Is
So-
that meta?
On Halloween, do we have to talk about Friday the 13th, or can we talk about the Saturday the 14th film?
No, on Halloween we're talking about the Santa Claus the movie.
Really?
With
With the one
Dudley
with Dudley
Moore.
Moore?
Dudley, I was going to say Dudley Moore.
And David Hiddleston.
Is he the one who plays Santa?
Yes.
David
David Hiddleston. You'll know him from Blazing Saddles and The Big Lebowski. He was the Big Lebowski.
Who plays Santa in Ernest Saves Christmas?
That one dude.
Oh man. Which version of Santa?
Vicious.
My God, I'm going to punch you in the Goram throat.
Five-ish Finkel? Are you going to say
Five-ish
Fish Finkel?
Finkel. Five-ish Finkel. I couldn't think of his name.
Oh my
I
God.
preferred the sequel, Six
All right.
Finkel.
So we have tons of Halloween movies. Should we
Yes.
get started?
Sure. Well, let's talk. This was something I thought about today,
Did it
and I
work?
wanted your opinions on it. So, the modern horror movie characters,
Yes.
they are the modern day versions.
You mean like the Universal Monsters?
they're the Universal And I was thinking about this because Mike Myers. Let's talk about this.
Michael Myers, not Mike Myers.
Whatever.
We'll get confused.
Freddy Krueger.
Shagadelic, baby.
You know, Freddy Krueger.
With a knife.
Freddy Krueger. He closely resembles Dracula.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, Jason Voorhees, sort of. These are all a stretch.
Yeah.
Well, no, I get what you're
The
saying.
mummy would be the mummy would be Pinhead.
Jason is your force of nature, but
Yeah.
silent.
Yes.
I
Leatherface, I compare to the Wolfman
I
because
miss
he's
my
just
face hair.
natural. You know, a natural anger, murder with no explanation. He's just.
Yeah, I guess. That one's a
But where does
stretch.
Mike Myers fit into this? Is he the creature from the Black Lagoon?
No, I would say he's the Invisible Man.
How is he the Invisible Man? Because the Invisible
Because-
Man starts sane and goes insane because he's invisible.
But the flip
Well, he's
side
a
of
little-
it is, how often is Mike Myers perfectly visible? I mean, we see him standing at the edge of a hedgerow and then he's gone.
I don't know. I'll agree that during the time when we were kids, this was our Universal Monsters.
Yeah, these were our Universal monsters.
These were our Universal Monsters. So that was
Except
a reason.
for me, that my Universal Monsters were the Universal Monsters because my father said modern horror sucked.
Anyway, moving right along.
But no,
we don't doubt it.
I
dude.
thought about that today. I could not figure out where Michael Myers fits into
Oddly
that
enough,
category.
so not to make any of our fans mad, but I always loved Nightmare on Elm Street. That, of course, Freddy was always interesting. Even in the crappier ones, the character was always interesting. I enjoyed the Halloween films when I was a child. I still enjoy a couple of them now.
Mm-hmm.
I never cared for Friday the 13th, even as a kid, that much.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Actually, my favorite one of those is Freddy versus Jason, followed by Jason 10.
Yeah.
Right?
I
So
agree with that.
the ridiculous one in space that everyone who really loves the Friday the 13th films hates, I love. That's the one I like.
You know, IGN today, because today is technically Friday the 13th as we tape our Halloween episode, they ranked the Friday the 13th episodes, and Jason X actually got ranked the highest Followed briefly by Jason 4.
That's the one with Tommy.
That's Corey Feldman.
Yeah, but the character's name's Tommy because he shows back up in the 6th one. Tommy.
He shows up in 5 and 6.
It's not Tommy Wiseau.
And he goes in a room. And people are tearing him apart. It's really deep.
We're here to talk about Halloween. Yeah. It has an interesting... And James was talking about it when he came in late. 45 minutes late. Diva. Anyway, when he came in late, he was talking about...
It doesn't have enough ice in it.
I was rewatching... He was talking about rewatching them, correct? And you said, what is it that's interesting about all of them?
They don't have a plot. And what I mean by that, they do have a plot. They have a plot per film.
They're a self-contained movie each time about the same character.
And I think I'm going to say something, and I'm going to cross genres, because I enjoyed them as I watched them, as long as I didn't think about what came before.
Right.
And the equivalent to that, to me, is something that I am a fan of, but I also know when other people talk about it, they have every right to tear it apart.
Star Wars.
I'm going to punch you in the throat. You're getting a throat punch.
What is it?
Back to the
Highlander.
Future.
They are the horror equivalent of Highlander. As individual films.
No, I think Highlander's worse.
Really? She gains telepathic powers. And
that's the 4th and the 5th one. There's the 4th and the 5th one. But at least those two do connect.
But then she does it, and then he's got a curse that makes him have to kill all his family.
That was part 6.
And then that's what I'm saying.
But the quickening? They're aliens?
Well, it depends, and actually, that is an interesting point. It depends on what cut you watch.
Yeah.
Because that happens with Halloween.
Sorry, Miranda.
The producer's cut. Yeah.
There's the producer's cut.
So let's go ahead and get started.
So are we going to take them in order?
Let's do them in order.
Let's do them in order.
So the thing is, with Halloween, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the first Halloween, and here's the reason. Everybody has spent a lot of time on Halloween.
Yeah.
From 1978 on, it made careers for John Carpenter. It made careers for Jamie Lee Curtis. It made careers for Deborah Hill, Dean Cundy, the cinematographer, Tommy Lee Wallace, the assistant, the editor, and the production designer. I could just keep on naming. Nick Castle.
Donald Pleasance got him that role on Puma Man.
Oh my God, I'm going to punch you in the throat for picking.
Donald Pleasance already had a career, but I will say that it probably kept Donald Pleasance even more relevant throughout the 80s.
Do you know who they wanted for the
Yes, I do.
And the one person who said that it was one of his major regrets is turning it down.
Christopher Lee. But that's not the first. The first was Peter Cushing. And Cushing refused to do it because he was just in a little movie the year before called what?
Oh,
Star Wars. Wasn't going to come over here for 20 grand for a week's work.
Yeah.
And you know why Donald Pleasance took the role? Do either one of you know that?
I don't.
Oh, crap. I saw that and go ahead.
John Carpenter did the music for Assault on Precinct 13, which is the movie, and his daughter was into rock and roll in a rock and roll band, Donald Pleasance, and so she was a fan of Assault on Precinct 13 and his music, and said, "Oh, Dad, you got to go do the movie."
And John Carpenter was actually terrified of Donald Pleasance.
He was terrified of him.
But then they connected
after the movie.
And then he went on to do Escape from New York and
Prince of Darkness.
Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, they were lifelong friends from that point on, but he was terrified of him because Donald Pleasance questioned him and asked him questions.
Yes.
And thought they were all kind of kids. They got along, but he was terrified of him. Yeah, certain interesting things. I want to talk about some of the people who don't, because I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. The other two, and Haley probably knows this as well, he's my second favorite director of all time. I admire him because he's from Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And he said,
and that shows up throughout Halloween.
Throughout
Smith's
Halloween.
Grove.
Russellville.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all throughout Halloween. So
number one's Michael Bay, right?
No. Anyway.
He loved that Pearl Harbor.
Oh my God.
He loves Tommy Wiseau.
No, he loves Pearl
Francis.
He keeps he on a daily basis he'll call us up and go, Pearl Harbor is factual.
I would pick Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, I just hurt my pinky.
I like The Rock. So
yeah, it's still a buffet of loathsomeness.
Anyway,
The Rock.
No.
I hate you. I love
like
The Rock.
A child that wanders into their... I know you love wrestling.
I just broke my pinky.
So
I don't care.
Do you guys know the story about how a producer named Irwin Yablans wanted to do something called the Babysitter Killers, and then found out that no one had ever used the word Halloween in any movie title, and they got the money from a Mustafa. I can never say his name. Mustafa Akkad. Mustafa Akkad.
Who, by the way, really wasn't interested in doing the movie, but when they told him hey, this is flat out, this whole movie will cost $300,000, and he was shooting a Laurence Olivier movie at the time that was $300,000 a day.
He was shooting The Lion of the Desert, which is about Muhammad.
Oh.
That's a true story.
Okay.
Because you can't do a picture or anything else of Muhammad. There's a whole scene in that if you watch it. Oh, Anthony Quinn's in it. And Anthony Quinn's talking to the camera, so the camera's supposed to be Muhammad. Not that anybody else cares about any of this.
Yeah.
Because if you're Muslim, you cannot depict the Prophet Muhammad, right? So, yes, you're right. He was making all this. $300,000 here, take it.
Yeah.
Of course, he's made a gabillion. He got
Well,
killed.
he didn't even care.
No.
That this movie was getting made. He just thought it was a cheap thing, and then it went on to gross. It went on to gross what, $47 million?
Probably more than that.
47.
Up until the Blair Witch Project, it was
the
most successful independent film of all time.
Right, because in current dollars, it was it went on to gross $150 million.
Yeah.
In today's money, it only cost $300,000. Now I don't know what the inflation for 300.
But it's not going to be more than $1 million or $2 million.
Yeah, it's not. So I mean, that was a huge profit.
A huge profit.
And he was like, oh great, and then that's when he decided to just keep belting them out.
And he owned them
until he died.
Right, and we'll get to that in Halloween too, and why there were sequels. But as far as that, it's an interesting. And John Carpenter, I had to do a little bit of research. I didn't know he got paid. He said he didn't get paid. Erwin Yoblin said yes, he did get paid. John Carpenter says yes, he did supposedly got 10% of the profit. Erwin said the same thing. He only had 2 requests. He wanted 10% of the profit and his name above the title, and complete creative control. Erwin said there was a 4th one. He paid him $10,000 too, but that's still chicken feed for a director, even in 1978.
Yeah.
So he wanted his name above the title. Do you know how much forethought? A, do you know how much ego? And B, do you know how much forethought that takes to ask for that? Because how many times has he seen John Carpenter's Halloween, or anyone knows that they know his name because his name is above the title?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't tell you who, and that's the thing too. Though he co-wrote
it with Deborah Hill, who never ever Deborah Hill's passed on from cancer several years ago. Really quick about Deborah Hill, they were together. They were a couple.
Yep.
He left her and married Adrienne Barbeau later on and had a kid.
Who inspired Barbeau bots on C-Lab.
Yeah, I can't believe you just pulled the C out. Go ahead.
Anyway. So the interesting thing about this is that Deborah Hill, I don't think ever gets enough credit. She's the one that wrote all the dialogue for the Babysitters, all that stuff, because he wrote all the crazy Sam Loomis shit.
That's all he cared about, was writing the Sam Loomis.
Sam Loomis shit. And
by the way, those are great lines.
They're great lines. They make no sense, and they're great lines. But
they're great.
For that type of movie, it's great.
Oh yeah, and that's, what is it? Evil has came to your little town, sheriff. I mean, it sounds like he's tap dancing between a Western.
Oh yeah, which is what he went to Hollywood to make anyway.
Yeah. I mean, and he does it well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Deborah Hill never gets enough credit. She was one of the first huge mega female producers. So I just want to throw out there. Dean Cundy was the director of photography, cinematographer. He's another guy that I don't think gets enough shout outs. Dean Cundy invented that whole blue during the horror films, all the blue and the shadow. That's all Dean Cundy's work. Mm-hmm. He went on to shoot a few little movies that you may have heard of called Back to the Future.
Never heard of it.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I'm not even gonna make a joke. One of my favorite movies of all time.
Jurassic Park. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
In fact, I've heard John Carpenter say, "Well, later, I would love to have had Dean. I couldn't afford him anymore."
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and I think, going back to how that movie's shot, one of the things it's most famous for is you get the view.
Yeah.
And Roger Ebert and a bunch of other people have commented on that it makes it no longer passive.
The Steadicam had just came out, and they took advantage of it.
But I didn't know, actually, and this is something that as I listened to commentaries and I looked at stuff and I wanted to make sure I knew this, that actually the Canadians beat John Carpenter to it. Black Christmas has the killer POV first.
Well, Black Clear, go ahead.
There's the whole story. Go ahead.
No, you know it better than that.
No, I don't know necessarily. I'll fill in where you don't know. Go ahead.
No, just seriously, go ahead.
Black Christmas is directed by Bob Clark.
Yes.
Bob Clark became famous for a little movie called he did. Porky's was a huge hit, but that's not what he's remembered for. He's remembered
Christmas Story 2.
A Christmas Story, right? No, just a Christmas Story.
There was no 2.
Every Christmas you watch Bob Clark, that guy who gave you A Christmas Story also gave you Porky's and Black Christmas. And Black Christmas, by the way, is a dark film.
Yeah.
Much darker than Halloween. but a different kind of tone.
Do you think Bob Clark deserves an award for being able to jump through genres so quickly?
But he also gave us Rhinestone.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll stab you in the throat. You say one bad thing about Dolly.
Oh,
Chad's still upset.
We have Sylvester Stallone and we have Dolly on the payroll. Let's put them together. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. I mean, he definitely started out in horror films, but Black Christmas. Go ahead with the rest of it. It's he and Carpenter met, and he said they asked about is it about the sequel, and he said, well, if I ever did a sequel to Black Christmas, I think I'd put it on Halloween and call it Halloween.
Yep.
John Carpenter says that's bullshit. Of course he does.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
He says that he wanted to do the opposite of Black Christmas.
I don't know this part of the story.
Well, this is the part I do know, that he wanted to do the opposite because The Shape or Michael Myers or whatever he comes doesn't have a backstory.
Right.
He never wanted to give him a backstory.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he did not want the audience to feel any emotional attachment to him whatsoever.
He's evil. You can't kill evil. That's the reason why he gets up at the end. He's gone.
Yeah.
Right?
And it ties back, if you read some of the commentaries and things like that, it ties back into that's why it has to be on Halloween, because Halloween is the one night that you can't kill that spirit.
Yeah.
That you can't dismember, you can't. You know, the other part about that, though, is looking at some of how, and of course, any fan knows it's a William Shatner mask and stuff like that. But so much of what actually went into that movie was so complicated, especially on a $300,000 budget. They filmed at a time when there were no leaves, so they were recycling leaves.
They would throw the leaves down and then go around with rakes and stuff and pick the leaves back up because they couldn't afford. They had to go buy them out west. They had to pick streets that didn't have palm trees on them. And if you look really good or look really well, you can still see some palm trees in the back.
And then the car that Dr. Loomis was driving.
Yeah.
John Carpenter actually told Tommy Lee Wallace to go find a car that looked like a police car, and he went and rented a car from a rental place, and went and rehauled it to make it look like a cop car. That was the closest he could find, and then 2 weeks later they returned it and taking all the stuff out without ever the people at the business ever knowing that they did this.
I didn't know that story.
Yeah, but you know, it also goes to Jamie Lee Curtis being cast and given her connections.
Well, she's Janet Leigh's daughter, and Janet Leigh was in Psycho. If you're watching this and don't know that, I'm judging you, but keep going just in case.
But the happy accident of that, and John Carpenter saying, we knew if nothing else we would be able to say, well, we got her.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you looking up?
I was going to look up something about the name Loomis, because there's a Loomis connection there, but I forgot what it was.
Oh, Sam Loomis?
Yeah.
Sam Loomis, I think, is the guy... No, Sam Loomis is the private eye from Psycho.
Yeah.
Michael Myers is actually the guy that got... he's a British man that got assaulted in Precinct 13 in the theaters in Britain, I think, and then he just gave him a shout out. And that's the reason why the killer's named Michael Myers.
No.
Right?
No. So, you know, and if you don't know this, because Joe mentioned it briefly, Michael Myers was never going to be the name of this character. It was just going to be called, The Shape.
The Shape, yeah.
But then John Carpenter, it was the distributor over in Spain or Italy, whose name was Michael Myers for Assault on Precinct 13, and his name was Michael Myers.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I thought it was in England, right?
Maybe.
Yeah,
could just be Europe.
I thought you said he got assaulted, but then you just said never mind.
No, he got I thought he worked on assault on. That's how he knew.
I thought you said he got assaulted. I'm like,
assault
he didn't get assaulted. He felt that.
Worked on.
I was only half listening to you most of the time.
The blessing.
We're 30 minutes into the show. We're not even got through the first one.
I know.
Let's go. Let's roll.
We're finish your story.
No, that was the story.
He's done.
Damn it, isn't that what I just said?
Let's move on.
Nick Castle played the Shape really quick.
Well, no, there's 5 people that played Michael Myers in the first movie.
Yes, but Nick Castle did the majority of those scenes.
Tommy Lee Wallace was even Michael Myers at one point, because when they were breaking things, Tommy Lee Wallace was the only one who knew how the strength and how to break them. So that's why he put on.
Deborah Hill's the hands.
Yep.
When he's a kid,
when he's
it's not a little boy because she had small hands.
No, it's because they couldn't get a kid.
Well, the hours, but she's the only one that had the small hands on set to be able to do it to look for a kid.
That's why they look so well manicured.
Nick Castle would later go on to direct The Last Starfighter. He also, which is just one of my favorite Nick Castle films. I don't particularly care that much for Major Payne. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
I'm going to take this here.
Bam Bigelow's best movie.
Oh, my God.
Bam Bigelow's best movie.
Yes.
He also co-wrote Escape from New York. So, can I tell a quick story about The Mask?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody knows that's a Shatner mask, yada, yada, yada. So, throughout this episode, I'm going to name drop, and it's going to sound egotistical. I'm so sorry.
By the way, real quick, do you know how much that mask cost? $1.98. It was on clearance.
William Malone worked at Don Post Studios. Now, if you know who William Malone is, now a filmmaker, he directed the remake on House on Haunted Hill. He directed
Also the brother of Carl Malone.
No, he isn't.
Parasomnia.
He directed several episodes of Tales from the Crypt and Perversions of Science. He's a really talented guy. Anyway, I've met him a couple of times. A year ago, I was sitting in a panel that he was doing. He was talking about working at Don Post Studios. That's where he got his start. He was a mask maker. And he said he's the one that painted it and ripped out the eyes and did all that stuff, even though Tommy Lee Wallace says he's the one that did it.
Oh, my God.
The backstory on that, by the way, though, is they talked about...
So he gave a different story. He didn't talk about the clearance. He's like, no, they came down to the shop, blah, 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 blah. I mean, he told it in a way that sounded believable.
Well, what's funny about that is you're talking about the thing. One of the best comments I read on an interview, and I watched some interviews with John Carpenter, and it was in some obscure interview John Carpenter gave. He literally just looks directly at the camera and he goes, "Thank God we screwed that mask up. I'd hate for people to be hiding from William Shatner."
Yeah. Do we have anything else to talk about?
Because it was originally going to be a clown mask.
They brought in two. They
Yeah.
brought in two, and then everybody was deeply disturbed by just the Shatner one.
Yeah,
which he said didn't even really look like Shatner.
No, it doesn't look like Shatner.
No.
If you go back and look at that original mask, which made sense, by the way, because Paramount profited off of it, and they didn't want to pay
They
Shatner.
didn't want to pay Shatner. No, absolutely not.
Make it just close enough.
Yeah. All right. What else? Anything else about the
I'm
original?
good. We're 20 minutes in.
Halloween 2. What you got about on Halloween 2?
Oh, it's directed by Rick Rosenthal. So the story goes that Deborah Hill and John Carpenter had no desire to do another Halloween film. But there's a law, according to Carpenter, in California, and you cannot stop people from making money, basically, or from profiting on things. You can't do that. So they were going to do it one way or the other. He doesn't say this, but other people say that he felt like he got screwed out of a lot of the royalties that he was due from making the first one. And he's like, well, if you're going to do it anyway, and you're going to try to sue me to do it, and I'll just let you do it, and then I will try to write it and produce it and get paid.
Yeah.
He and Deborah Hill both felt that way. So they wrote it, they produced it, they had a hand in editing it, and supposedly they didn't care for Rick Rosenthal's cut, right? And he went back and bloodied it up some, which was not in the first one.
It's not in the first one.
They were competing with 3 years. First one came out in 78. Second one came out in 81. Within those 3 years, there had been a ton of imitations, and they all got bloodier and bloodier and bloodier.
And that was the thing. That was actually one of the things that Ebert said about the original was that Carpenter did it purely on atmosphere. If you go back and look for blood, there is very little.
There's very little. They didn't have any money for special effects. They blew most of the budget on cameras. That's the reason it looks so great.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry to go.
But no, so that's the thing. So you're right. By the time they did the second one, and as it goes along, by the way, we'll get to, if we have time, we'll get to the one that was originally rated X because they made it too gory.
Well,
There's not a lot to talk about.
There's not a lot. Can I just say I don't like it?
I don't care for it either.
I think it's boring.
It has the one scene in it where the mother drives up with the kid and he's either puking up blood, and I swear I think I remember a blood bubble coming out of his mouth. Am I wrong about this?
I can't remember that.
That creeped me out, but other than that, I mean,
James?
the movie was not that.
The problem is it's set at the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very limited timetable, and quite frankly, and going back to the Highlandering argument, is that it just...
You're the only one with that argument.
But it's just, he's there, and then he's gone, and it's just later that day, and it kind of takes away from... And I think that's the problem is, and I said the reason I use that Highlander argument is, the problem with Highlander, and as I said, I enjoy those films, but the problem with that... Are you having an episode?
No, it
Let
isn't.
him go. We got to get through this.
The problem with them
Mario
is...
Van Peebles was the best part of that whole
I'm
series.
going to punch you in the throat, so help me. Is that there is no consistency. And that's what starts to happen. And I think 2 is the beginning of where they just like, we're just going to switch it up and see what happens.
He said he had a hard time writing the screenplay. He said he was drinking a beer. He was drinking a lot of beer, trying to get through it. Hated doing it. Didn't have anything. And he somehow thought of, I'll just make him his sister, or make Laurie Strode his sister.
The Star Wars effect of everything's got to be related. Everything's got. And I think that's and what's funny is there's been
Haley is down. Are you having another heart attack? Because we left her for dead in the last one. That's right, Dog Butters. We don't care.
That was like 3 episodes
the
ago.
They'll watch.
Anyway, no. So I think that I agree. I think that's part of the problem with this. And the other part is it's at a hospital, and there's nothing about a hospital that goes, watch me, please watch me.
It's boring.
It really is a boring movie.
It's boring. Lance Guest is in it though, and he would be later in The Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that today. It's weird. And then, all right. So should we move on to Halloween 3?
Yes, the controversial film of all
It is
time.
controversial for what reason?
Because it's fun.
It's not.
Michael Myers isn't in it. And I love the idea. The original idea, this was told to me by Tom Atkins when he signed all my posters once. It was told to me through many documentaries. The original idea was it was fine. They're going to keep making Halloween movies. Why don't we just use the brand name? It's now a brand name and tell a story every time.
Yeah,
which is a great idea.
Yeah,
It more or less becomes a serial.
Yeah.
Or not a serial, but
But it never works.
Well, Saw. I worked for Saw.
Well, Saw
Yeah.
still has a continuation, though. I mean, it's all bullshit.
It's all bullshit, and it
doesn't make any sense.
None of the continuity
Past
works.
the third one, I was arguing with Haley about this earlier. Past the third one, I don't know that any of those make sense.
No, none of them do.
But there are
They do
a
to
lot
me,
of they're a lot of fun to watch. Now, by the way, I still haven't seen the last Saw. I know somebody's gonna be like,
They're on Netflix. I am. Yes, they added 1 through 7 for Halloween. I'm actually gonna sit through. I'll sit through them. I'm gonna go make them.
When Dana and I were dating, and then after we got married, we went and watched them all. And then
Who's Dana?
It's my wife.
You're married.
Hussy.
You knew
Did
what
that
this
guy
was.
in the men's room know that you were married?
He paid me. But anyway, no. So we had kids, and so I never got to see.
Hussy.
You got all that way just to say that. Anyway, back to Halloween 3. I love the idea of it. I wish that had worked. I don't think it was sold well. I don't think it was ever advertised well.
No, and I think the problem with it is, I mean, it was a marketing issue, but the movie itself. I love the end of the world thing. I love anytime John Carpenter ends the world, I show up.
Well, hold on.
Well,
go ahead. Is it about the original ending?
no.
So, the way the original ending was written was that he's screaming on the phone. Like, you don't know what a phone is. Sorry. He's screaming on the phone, and it goes to black, and you're supposed to hear millions of kids screaming. Tommy Lee Wallace cut it and didn't shoot it because he thought it was too dark. And I cannot believe why you wouldn't do that. If you're going to go, what does Mel Brooks say? If you're going to climb the mountain,
ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
Well, and this movie has probably one of the most interesting pre-production stories of any of the Halloweens.
Absolutely, keep going.
Because the original director, do you know who the original director was for Halloween 3?
I didn't either. We both found this out today.
Joe Dante.
Really?
Joe Dante was gonna do this, and it was
Joe
actually,
Dante, Gremlins, Inner Space, Gremlins 2.
Yeah, a bunch of he's actually
Looney Tunes.
in my. Oh, why did you have to bring that one up?
Because I'm a jerk.
He is one of these directors who I think should be considered an iconic director who just doesn't get the credit for it.
I don't think so either. And he's been kind of in again, off again with television. And I think probably for the last decade or so, he has directed television.
Yeah, you know, for example, I'm sorry, Mr. Dante, but this is the only one that I'm recalling. He actually did an episode of the Legends of Tomorrow on Warner Brothers, DC Comics property.
He directed a lot of the Hawaii Five-0. Said it was a lot of fun being in Hawaii. I bet it was.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah.
But no, so Joe Dante was originally hired to direct this movie, and then, you know, he worked with, I forget the original screenwriter. Nigel Neal, who was Italian?
He was British, and the reason he got the gig because Carpenter is a nerd like the three of us, and he wrote a little movie or a couple movies. You know Quartermass in the Pit? He wrote that.
He wrote that.
Which, by the way, if you've never seen it, it's a fantastic British film. Go out and see Quartermass in the Pit.
It's pretty much the merging of Alan Quartermain, the original story is not and kind of Lovecraft.
It's Quartermain and Lovecraft put together.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're a Carpenter fan, In the Mouth of Madness is a lot like that in the sense of the marrying of the two. I'm sorry.
But anyway, so Joe Dante and this guy, Nigel Neal, They hammered out this film, and they were going to do it, but then Joe Dante went off to another project. So then they took the script, and then the script just kept getting obliterated and cut down, and then eventually Carpenter rewrote it, and then Tommy Lee Wallace rewrote it until the point of where Neil doesn't even get credit for it, and Tommy Lee Wallace...
He had his name removed.
He had his name removed because it was actually going to be more of a comedy than anything.
Oh, I didn't read that.
I think it was going to be a more of a comical horror film.
Yeah.
And then it turned into the gory...
Yeah, and Nigel Neal didn't like the gory part. Didn't want anything.
He didn't want any part of it. That's not what he wrote.
And then I didn't know this. Technically, Tommy Lee Wallace says, even though he got sole credit for it, he said Nigel Neal, 60% of that movie you saw was written by him. Still, he still says it, but he had his name removed. And he said most of the other stuff was Carpenter, and then the rest of it was him. He wrote the least of it, he says, and that was him. But he ended up getting total credit for it. Well, good for him. If you don't know how the Writers Guild of America works when it comes to getting credit. If you have an hour of your life and you want to take a nap, go ahead and read that. It's painful.
It's any of that, and I do believe in the need for the Writers Guild. I do believe in the need for the Directors Guild.
And he does believe in the need for speed.
Arbitration, though. I mean, you have to have an attorney.
James is a hardcore drug addict.
I do agree. I do agree with all that, but I do think you're right in that sometimes
that's why you're so twitchy.
It complicates. I'm going to punch you.
Did you know Tommy Lee Wallace was going to direct the second one? But it kept getting more and more, which is funny. He says it kept getting bloodier and bloodier, and then he pulled out at the last minute because he wanted it to be closer.
Giggity.
He wanted it, I know. He wanted it to be closer to the original with atmosphere.
Oh, really?
Which is funny because he directed Season of the Witch, which has bugs and snakes crawling out of a dead boy's mouth. And eyes.
Well, as one does.
As one does.
By the way, if you don't know who Tommy Lee Wallace is, he went on to direct another TV movie that not a lot of people heard of called It.
Yeah.
And he married Pamela Anderson, right?
No.
I know that's not true.
He gave Pamela Anderson
hepatitis.
Herpetitis.
Ass disease. Anyway, so
it's better than herpetosyphilis.
I was gonna say it's better than gonosyphilis.
Going back to Halloween 3, in defense of it, it is a flawed movie. Chad and I were talking about this, but it's such an interesting movie, and it was such a good idea. Wouldn't you have loved every year, every other year, you got a new movie called Halloween, and it could be anything.
It could, you never know what you're gonna get.
You never knew what you're gonna get.
I think that's the thing.
But people don't like that. Why?
Change.
I really don't understand why audiences don't like that.
I was getting ready to go political. Stop myself.
I think the other side of that, though, is that you get into cycles. And I think if you go back and you look at Universal horror films and things like that, and we even talked about it in the future doing an episode about this, is that stuff happens. And then these characters become cliche or old.
Oh, yeah. I mean, before you know it, they're doing a movie with Abbott and Costello.
And then what you get, your new wave of horror, and some people have argued this point, was that you have your classical Universal and your second wave of Universal monsters are the atomic ones.
Right.
And so that argument there and things like that. So I wonder if that's the issue, was that people just weren't tired of it yet.
I don't know. I just... And the other thing and this is the last story I have about it, John Carpenter says that Universal saw Tommy Lee Wallace's cut and said change the ending. And he came back to Tommy and said, do you want to change the ending? Because it's a pretty bleak ending. Although I think it should have been bleaker. When I heard that idea of the 1,000,000 kids screaming, that's a horror film to me. That's amazing. That's a great idea.
That goes back to my entire thing.
And you just build it in your head.
Oh, yeah. Because that's the entire thing. I don't need to see the kids. I don't need to, but there's something about, it's like I've talked to you about, what's the horror film where the kids possessed?
Children of Village of the Damned.
Insidious works on me every time.
I went Village of the Damned.
In ways that
mine's better.
Other ones.
Both y'all can kiss my ass.
Which version?
I'm talking about the Christopher Reeve one.
That's not the best. That's the crappy.
That is amazing. Isn't Kirstie Alley in that too?
Kirstie Alley.
Yeah.
Anyway,
gold.
Finish your point.
But I think
I got excited.
I don't know if I have one. I think that I agree with you.
Village of the Damned is an underappreciated remake.
I agree with it. No, as far as Halloween 3, As far as Halloween,
I can't even believe my own
the
bullshit.
only scene I remember out of that movie as being halfway decent, and the only thing that added to the original was the guy dead on the grill.
That's a good one.
Did you ever wonder if
That's
those kids
the
went out
only
in the middle of the day and got sunburned? Because they were pale.
Do you go out and get sunburned?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, but no, I agree with you on Halloween 3.
I'm a walking piece
oh
of
my
bacon.
God, I'm never Halloween 3
Screaming kids.
But I think the fact that anytime you target kids in a horror film and you follow through on it, it's more effective to me. Because I don't care about adults. They're horrible people.
FYI, Dan O'Harley, who later became the old man in RoboCop, played the old man. They called him the old man. Whatever. Also went on to do The Last Starfighter with Lance Guest, who was in
My
Halloween
God.
2, which was directed by Nick Castle, who was in Halloween.
Hey, is this going to be Joe's 6 degrees of separation?
I just like The Last Starfighter. I would
I
like
do
to do
know.
a whole
I
episode,
like.
but
I prefer Enemy Mine. Again,
my
both
God.
y'all can kiss my ass.
directed by Wolfgang Peterson. Anyway,
I don't
moving
give a
on.
shit. Lou Gossett Jr. has a baby.
Dennis
A big snake baby.
Snake baby.
Revisit.
All right.
Throwback!
Should we move on? Haley's laughing. Should we move on to Haley? Haley.
Should we move on to Haley?
Haley, yeah.
Halloween 4, 1988.
1988, directed by Dwight Little, who would go on to give us Free Willy 2.
God bless him for it.
And
screw David Lynch.
Showdown in Little Tokyo, whatever one.
Ooh, is that Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I marathon these movies.
You marathon Brandon Lee movies?
No, I
You
marathon
study
Brandon-
for the wrong podcast, my friend.
My nose is around. Let me take care of that.
Rapid
better
Fire.
catch it.
Ooh, Rapid Fire is a good movie.
If you mention Laser Blast, I will kill you right
I was
now.
going to mention Laser Blast.
Well, can we get on to Halloween 4?
Halloween 4. So I marathoned all these films, which means I have a skewed view of it because you probably.
Which means he watched these while running.
No, that never happened.
Never happened.
Never happened, sir. But so I watched them close together, and Halloween 4, if you do that, is very much a, hey, you ever see that movie Halloween? Let's do that again.
Yeah.
Until the end.
With Daniel Harris.
With Daniel Harris. It's very much has the feel of the first one, and you're like, okay, yep, all right.
And
yep.
by the way, if you ever meet her, she's still the same size she was
Yeah.
in Halloween 4 and 5.
And she's one of the Hollywood ghost hunters with Kane Hodder, and this is true. If I moderate their
Kane
panel.
Hodder dropping names like he knows
Yeah.
people.
Didn't he just spend an hour talking about, oh, Tom Atkins on my poster?
Yeah.
Is it Tom Atkins, Tommy Lee Wallace.
Yeah, okay. Anyway.
I was really name shit.
Name chopping.
Yeah, use it.
I'm still waiting for the booze. Keep going.
But anyway,
God, I wish we
he
had
was
this.
talking about working with her and her being a Hollywood ghost hunter, and he said it's always funny because you've got R.A. Millehoff, who played Leatherface, and then you've got Daniel Harris, who literally, if there is a ghost, will just knock her out of the way. So she's never in any real risk. She weighs 60 pounds. I don't know.
Let's get back to the movie Halloween 4.
Yeah.
I loved Halloween. Well, I liked them as a kid, Halloween 4 and 5.
Yeah, I
quite
liked
a
Halloween
bit.
4 and 5 as a kid. Doesn't hold up. No.
They weren't good when they came out. It's just, let's see, 88, I was 10 years old. 10-year-old Joe didn't have a lot of expectations.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Halloween 5...
I like the opening scene with the ambulance and stuff.
Halloween 5's main marketing gimmick was, ooh, we're finally going to see the face of Michael Myers.
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure...
Well, when we get to Halloween 5, I've got some points about that. But you're right, the ambulance scene is one of the most interesting. But what's funny about it is, again, it goes back to that continuity, the Highlander effect that I keep throwing out, is that he was done. Halloween 2, he's done.
They blow him up. They blow up him and Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, and that's the funny part about it is that he is dead. And it's great because in Halloween 4, and I said I watched all of these, when you first see Donald Pleasance, go back and watch this, they do so many great scar effects on one side of his face. 4 minutes later in the movie, it's like, oh, there's some scarring.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And then,
isn't it? What about in 5?
Oh, it gets even better. The hospital, the ambulance scene you're talking about. Watch the jacket, because the arm says Smithsgrove. On the side of the ambulance, it's Smithsgrove, with the plural, or with a possessive, and then there's 3 different props. None of them match up. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, guys, this is starting to feel like you're just getting a check. I don't know what's going on. So it is. It's. But
what year did Halloween 4 come out?
88.
And Halloween 5 came out in 89.
89, which is when we get to Halloween 5 gets really interesting because a couple things happen there.
Yeah, but
I listen to the commentary on. I'm like, yeah, no, it shows.
I feel like by this point we were already 4 or 5 deep into Friday the 13th. And we were 2 or 3
by
deep.
By 88, we would have been 7 deep.
And then how many Nightmare on Elm Streets were?
4 deep.
4 deep. So, I mean, this time they were like, oh, crap.
By the way, look that shit up. I'm almost positive.
I think you're right.
But I was going to say, and here's what's funny about Halloween 4.
Came out in 89.
89, that's right, because I saw it in the theater.
Halloween 4 bucked the system, though, and that's one of the reasons Halloween 5 got such a quick turnaround. Because the other movies were still profitable, but they were considered winding down.
Yeah.
They weren't seeing increasing returns anymore. And then Halloween 4 came out and compared to 3 and even 2, blew it away.
Well, I feel like with Halloween 4, as I just mentioned about that's why I brought this point up, is because they're like, holy crap, these are horror movie franchises now. These things are making bank. We haven't made a Michael Myers film since 1981.
And Universal distributed 2 and 3 and didn't let it slip for 4. And 4 and 5 weren't even distributed by American companies.
Yeah. Weren't they? Were they straight to video, or were they?
No, they were in theaters. It's a weird company that I didn't write the name down. It wasn't until 6 that Dimension got the hold of it.
Yeah.
That horrible, horrible movie, Halloween 6. That was the Dimension one.
Well, should we skip right to 6?
No, I'm just telling you.
But anyway, yeah. So Halloween 4, the standard critique of it is it's a very standard movie up until the end, and then it gets interesting, and the end would of course be
she kills him.
She
stabs
she kills her stepmother.
Yeah, she kills her stepmother.
Because Laurie Strode is dead. She has died in a car accident, and that's what actually wakes Michael Myers up, because for some reason in the ambulance they mentioned that she had a daughter.
Yeah.
And that somehow is what wakes him up, and he bashes that.
That's one of the funniest parts about the fact that the biggest complaint about we do have a new Halloween coming. It's being written by Danny McBride
and directed by what's his face. And Carpenter's executive producing.
Yeah, and everybody.
And Laurie Strode will be back again.
And that's people's main complaint is Laurie Strode's back. She was killed. But she's back. She was killed in H2O.
No, she was killed in Resurrection.
In Resurrection.
She came back to H2O, and she's killed off in the first 10 minutes of Resurrection. And she came back for H2O and was killed off.
But nobody complained back then about the fact that, hey, she was actually technically killed in 4.
Well, the problem is it ignores it, and that's what the next one's going to ignore, even part 2.
Yeah, which is fine.
Well,
and James, because we were talking about the continuity, people are pissed now because the new Halloween's coming out next year and it's ignoring everything except for the first one. And I go, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares? No, it's the same thing when this eventual Highlander reboot comes out, which will eventually happen. I'm going to go into it saying this is probably going to suck, but I'm still going to go.
Yeah,
I like the concept, so I'm going to show up for concept.
So they set up Halloween 5 great, right?
Yeah.
Even if they want to bring him back, he could have had a sidekick of Danielle Harris.
And that's what Danielle Harris
That's what she wanted to do, be the killer.
She said, I want to be the killer, but if not, I want to be the sidekick. And she got
neither. So Halloween 5...
Well, she was a kid at the time. I don't think anybody...
Yeah. But Halloween 5 is
directed... She wanted to kill people, Chad.
Directed by Dominique Othenin Gerard. I have no idea who this dude is. I mean, I can talk about all the directors except him.
They wrote it as they went. Like, they started without a script.
There's a man in black that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's the man in the black trench coat. And then it sets up so much. This is when
there's some sort of psychic ability connection.
Yeah, there's like basically whatever Danielle Harris's character Jamie.
Yeah.
Whatever she does.
And did they do a big reveal with him, or did they ever not show him without? Do they show him without the mask?
I can't remember.
No.
You never see the man in black. You just see his boots and his trench coat.
I thought this was the one where you see Mike Myers. I know in the first one you see him without the mask, but I thought in 5 that you actually see him.
This is probably the one. The other one.
He has a different mask on, and for some reason has a 10-minute driving scene. Remember, he's driving with a different mask.
Well,
on.
and what's funny is there's that scene where so basically at the end of the other movie,
she kills,
but she does it after she touches him.
Yeah.
She touches hands with him for a second, and that's supposedly what establishes a link if you try to follow through all these movies. Once they're linked, basically she has a connection, she can see, he can see, blah, blah. That's a common cliche thing. It's been done before in other movies, but this is when it tried to really start.
But when they never mind.
This is when it tried to start to go more supernatural, which is what, as Chad was saying earlier, is what every other horror movie had done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until that point, it was implied, but this is when it started to really beat people over the head. Hey, he's not human.
That's and that's what Child's Play did correctly. Is they started with the supernatural right out the gate.
Well, so did Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Except, did they bring up that he's an Incan dream warrior anyway? I don't know.
So anyway, 5 has this whole thing. It's weird at the end. Why she can't talk through most of the movie.
She's mute. Yeah,
she's mute.
And this was the one that I said I would get to this. It was originally kicked back as rated X.
It is the is this what's the rated X?
This was the one that
they all
was
had
rated
to have
X.
cuts for the most
this
part.
Was the the Superman 4 of the Halloween series.
This was where they threw so much gore at the screen, and if you go back and skip the ones in the middle, watch one, and then watch this, it literally is piling on blood. Because you have something that's very subtle, very nuanced, and then you have gore, 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 gore. Speaking of which, by the way, it came up on one of the special features for Halloween 5. It wasn't mentioned on the special features.
Is this my box set that you supposedly bought for me?
Well, yeah, I had to check and make sure it worked. Do you know they were originally going to do Halloween 2 in 3D, and it was just too expensive?
It's too expensive, yeah.
But yet they did Friday the 13th.
Yeah, no, that's... But anyway, so that came up with the Halloween 5 special features, and they said we could have done this one in 3D, but we spent it on blood.
Yep. So Halloween 6, oh my God, it makes no sense. It's directed by Joe Chappelle. Joe Chappelle also gave us another brilliant film called Phantoms, and if you've ever seen Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Ben Affleck, Phantoms is the bomb.
This was the film that had the most reshoots.
Well, yeah, and when they went back to reshoot some of the scenes, there was one missing person. Who was it, James?
I don't know, Joe. Who would that have been?
Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, I was gonna say this was Donald Pleasance's last
film, unfortunately. Yeah. He died before they did the reshoots, so they had to reshoot around him. The way the movie sets, the theatrical cut, makes no sense whatsoever.
Mike Myers is now a Celtic.
Is a Celtic god? Oh, I'll read it off. Absolutely.
He has to kill his family. This is his curse.
Has to kill his
That's why it's the curse, you see. Michael Myers.
God.
So it is Thorn. It's the cult of Thorn. Thorn cult. Yes, absolutely.
And the symbol on his wrist is a real Celtic symbol that has nothing to do with a cult.
Did you know Peter Jackson was asked to direct it?
No.
Do you know who else was going to direct it?
No.
Fred Walton. Do you know Fred Walton?
No.
Fred Walton would have been the person who gave us April Fool's Day.
Oh, well.
And, what was his other movie? Crap.
Godfather.
He
Goodfellas.
He did horror movies. And so he did April Fool's Day. When a Stranger Calls.
Goodfellas is a horror movie.
When a Stranger Calls. So he was originally going to direct as well. And for some reason, I think I know why, Fred Walton, who did April Fool's Day, and When a Stranger Calls, said, I'm going to go ahead and step away from this.
So, there was a lot of fighting between the producer and the director in the studio. This is when the Weinsteins got it. It was released through Miramax. They outbid New Line Cinema for it, actually.
Wow.
Yep.
So, it could have been at the House of Freddy.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me. Leatherface was already there. Jason was there for a while, and they already had Freddy. So, the guy that wrote it, his name was David Farrens, and he was a huge fan. He actually has done several documentaries. He did research when he was writing the script of the whole family tree of all the movies and tried to incorporate all that into his screenplay and then explain the supernatural part. Problem is, guess what happens in Hollywood? Now, for you all who don't know this, if to blame a movie, I can't remember who said this, but I think it's brilliant. To blame a movie sucking on the screenwriter is like blaming it on the key grip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it passes through so many
hands, so many things change, so many things change on set. We've made short films. We know a lot about how movies are made. We all agree on this, right? To blame the screenwriter is basically like yelling at the key grip.
If you pull the first draft, or the first quote-unquote complete draft, we have done for anything, even the stuff that I was only marginally connected to.
And that's us.
Yeah. And that's only having to go through us.
The Third Degree was being rewritten. Third Degree. Murder Virgin was being rewritten at the end.
And then
we went back and reshot things.
Well, and then on top of that, you had these actors who wanted to ad lib, usually actually to the benefit, but it, you know, it's like, oh, I had just wrote a line where you're gonna say something really dark, and you just cracked a joke that's better than what I wrote.
Yeah,
we got to run with that.
But so, anyway, he did a lot of documentaries about this. He's actually making another Amityville.
Yeah, that's what we need.
I know.
This lamp, boys, is cursed. I'm telling you.
A lame ghost story about that's based on a story that really didn't happen.
I've seen the ending for the producer's cut. Now this is one of those that's famous for having a producer's cut of the original. They call it the producer's cut because it was the cut of how it would have originally looked, how the producer wanted it to look. It supposedly makes more sense. James, did you watch the producer's cut? It's on that box set. I've been told of this box set that said you bought me that we haven't gotten yet.
I watched whatever was on the automatically played DVD. I'll put it that
probably the theatrical.
Yeah, I would assume it because the one that I watched is the one that ends ambiguously.
And Donald Pleasance is in a scene and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And it ends the ending that is on the one that automatically plays is basically they're getting ready to leave and they tell Dr. Loomis, "Hey, come with us." And he says, "I'm not done yet." And he gives us kind of wry smile. And then he walks back in.
The music plays.
And you see the mask.
Yeah.
And
that's the theatrical.
And then you see, and basically what had happened before was, and again, this drives home the point, hey, he's not human. Because earlier he had been beat and green mucusy stuff comes out of the eye holes. But you just see the mask and you hear Loomis scream. And then it's done. And
you
never find out what happened.
Paul Rudd's. Is it Paul Rudd's first film?
I don't know if it's his first film, but he's in it.
He's in it. I don't know if it's that or Clueless, but Paul Rudd's in it. It's a terrible movie. Yeah. I don't know that I watched the ending of the producer's cut. I don't know that it helps. It helps it, but
it's one of those.
It's
things,
still a bad movie.
It's kind of, we've talked about this before, but the two versions of the Exorcist prequel. What were those two?
It's the Exorcist, the beginning, and the Exorcist.
It's not Legion, but
no, yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
Both those movies, it's one of those things.
We could do a whole episode on that.
Well, yeah. It's one of my favorite reviews of all time because originally when I didn't get released,
and they went back and redid a whole other movie.
The Exorcist, the beginning, did get released. I saw it in theaters, and it was all right. Whatever.
Clueless was his first.
Stupid fun.
But then it was like, oh, if only we would have saw the one that we were promised. And then it came out. We saw it, and we were like, no, they're about the same.
They're about, yeah.
I mean, the acting's good because of,
yeah.
But no.
Imagine being Paul Rudd off a hit movie like Clueless, and then his follow-up.
Isn't that Halloween 6?
Halloween 6. My career's ruined.
So that's about all the time. Do we need to talk about H2O or Resurrection?
You know, the thing about H2O and Resurrection is this is when
Resurrection's a bad movie.
But this is when they finally just went, you know what? We're embracing it. Continuity doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Movies are movies.
And they put Busta Rhymes in.
I don't care that H2O has Jamie Lee Curtis back. It does nothing for the movie, in my opinion.
No, and it does the entire she faked her death.
It's a rip-off of Scream. Kevin Williamson's executive producer, supposedly was one of the writers, and then actually I did find this out. His script he wrote was so close to a script that a guy named Robert Zappia had already written that the Writers Guild wouldn't give him credit.
Oh.
There's a funny story about this, though.
As executive producer.
For diehard Halloween fans that read all version of Halloween stuff, you all may know this. There was a comic book that was made not too long ago based on Halloween, and what the author did was and I don't know the author. It'd be hilarious if it's the guy that you were talking about that has done all these documentaries. He went back and he actually looked at the family. He looked at all of that stuff, and he wrote the backstory of her faking her death.
Yeah,
and that actually got a lot of attention within that realm because it was so well done about she's recreating herself, and it did the psychological profile of Laurie Strode. Cool. And that was actually interesting. But I think real quick we do have to touch on the Rob Zombie ones.
I mean, I actually think Halloween Rob Zombies, I actually like it.
I like the first one.
I like the first one.
I think
his Halloween 2 is damn near unwatchable.
I think one reason people struggle with it though, having marathoned all these, is Dr. Loomis.
Yeah,
No,
that's one
Malcolm
that's totally
McDowell's
different.
Dr. Loomis is a money-grubbing,
Totally different.
and it's such a complete different character. So if you love Dr. Loomis, and once you watch all the Donald Pleasants, he's fascinating.
I disagree with both of you because that's not the main problem people have with Rob Zombie's Halloween.
I think it's one of the problems.
The main problem is the fact that they gave Mike Myers an origin story.
I agree.
And it made him relatable.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
Where
I
in the
agree.
first one, he's just a vehicle of rage for no reason.
No reason.
I agree. I
You're
think
not
that's
supposed
true.
to. You're not supposed to have sympathy for somebody who's going around murdering teenagers.
I agree. I think you're right. That's the problem. They gave him a backstory. In fact, half that film is giving him a backstory.
And you feel sorry for him. You legitimately feel sorry for this kid.
And the problem, Danny Trejo told this story. Were you there when he was talking about that in the original cut that he had to go back because he plays his caretaker, right?
Yes.
They had to go back and reshoot in the original cut. He didn't kill him, and Rob Zombie called him up and said, "Sorry, man, we're going to bring you in." He goes, "Yeah, I kind of assumed because it basically him not killing Danny Trejo
gives him a soul.
You basically sympathize with Michael Myers, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Why? I don't even know why Rob Zombie didn't pick up on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other part about that is, and I think Rob Zombie is a director in and of himself. It's an experience.
Yeah.
However you feel about the film. So real quick, what I will say, Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, horrible movie, interesting visuals, should never have been called Halloween. Call it A Haunted World of Super Beasto Part 2.
You know who he looks like? He looks like Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
He dressed him up to look like Rob Zombie.
So again, the second one is terrible, but there are visuals in it where I'm like,
visuals.
God, if
I like the idea of her being close to being crazy and crazy as a family.
Yeah, so I didn't have a problem with the backstory. I kind of like that, but at the same time, I understand why people were pissed. Then, 2 just blows everything out of the water. And you make Mike Myers talk.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't make Mike Myers talk. Mike Myers is just this...
He keeps saying Mike Myers. Mike Myers is hilarious. Have you ever seen him do one of those Austin Powers pictures?
You ever seen that in Glorious Bastards? He's hilarious in that.
Anyway, so I've got to end it here. Do you have something else to say?
No.
No,
I'm good.
Haley's giving me
I'm still shocked that spam's an acronym.
Halloween, but no, we'll see what the next Halloween movie does. I do think, though, having marathoned all of these, it actually did give me more appreciation for what we have talked about.
Yeah.
That he does work best, and there is something that's more relatable to him, even though we're not supposed to, than Jason and all of those others.
I agree. All right. Well, that's been our Halloween episode. I hope you enjoyed it, Miranda, because we only did it for you. James is your boyfriend.
It's all for you, Damien.
It's all for you. Thank you so much. That was our Halloween episode. Please follow us on boneheadhumor.com. Go to YouTube. Go to iTunes. Really, email us in show suggestions.
Yeah, show suggestions.
Yeah,
we
please
love them.
tweet us.
If you can't see the whiteboard where these are possible future episodes,
we have 14. Actually, it says 15, but we just killed one. We have 14 episodes in that ready to go. So,
but we also would love to do what you want to do. They said they wanted Halloween. Look at what we did. Maybe you want to do an episode where I just lecture for an hour. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and if it's stupid, we'll just tell you.
One thing Joe didn't mention. When you go to YouTube, when you go to SoundCloud, when you go to iTunes, look for Bonehead Humor.
Yeah.
That's how you find us.
Sorry.
And if you're already listening to us, you don't need to know that.
But rate us.
Congratulations.
Please,
and rate us.
Rate us, comment, do something.
Share us with your friends. We're whores.
We didn't get gold stars as children, and we are scarred because of it.
We're nerds who are...
We only got the purple ribbons, people.
We're Z-grade nerds.
You got purple ribbons?
Oh, my
God. Here we go.
Anyway, thank you so much. This has been Bonehead Humor on behalf of all of us. Peace. Toodles. See you later. Peace. Toodles. See you later.
Doodles, scoodles, madoodles.
That didn't even make any sense.
I love ramen noodles. I really don't like ramen noodles. Tasteless crap is what they are.
That just break something.